Eagles-Buccaneers, a 1 o'clock kickoff. We're going to get you ready for it with LOE3 for Week 4, presented by FanDuel.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy game day, Eagles fans. Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. I'm Louie DiBiase, brought to you, as always, with Gino Camilleri on my side, and we're brought to you by FanDuel. Gino, today we have our 3-player props each that we're going to take for Eagles-Buccaneers. We normally do this on our Friday edition of the show, but because of all the injuries, FanDuel took a little bit longer for these props to pop up, but we've got them ready to go, and it was a weird, tough one to really decide on what I was going to ride with because we know A.J. Brown's out. So is Devontae Smith. A late decision to keep Lane Johnson from playing in this football game. The Buccaneers are hurt on both sides of the ball. So it's kind of a tough game to read. I feel like this is going to be a weird one. Both teams are very banged up. And honestly, I didn't like it when the schedule came out, but thank God for this early bye week next week.
I know we're kind of just sitting here saying, like, let's just get to next week.
Yeah,
even
honestly.
Like, worst case scenario, you lose this game, you're 2-2 going into the bye, and then you come out and you have a fully healthy roster. That's really where this Eagles team needs to get to, is it's back to full health. But at the same time, I don't think you can use injuries as an excuse today because Tampa Bay, they're just as banged up as you are. They're starting right tackle, and Luke Gedeke is out. Both of their running backs, Bucky Irving, Rashad White, have nicks on them as well, so we'll see if they're fully healthy. We're going to see without Kalijah Kancey, can Vita Vea dominate on that other side of the ball. He's done that a couple times against the Eagles.
Antoine Winfield Jr. is out too.
Open up the downfield shots even without your wide receivers, man. They don't have their star safety. They don't have the deepest cornerback room. I know without the injuries, people are saying maybe it's going to be a low-scoring game. I still think there's going to be opportunities to put points on the board.
I think for the Eagles, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think there's still no excuse for the Eagles to not win this football game because the Buccaneers have injuries in key spots that the Eagles can absolutely exploit, and it's in the trenches. Like you said, their best player on the offensive line is not playing in this game. Their number one ball hawk that could get Jalen Hurts to force some turnovers today is not playing in this football game. Vita Vea, you mentioned, can he stop the Eagles' elite rushing attack? He's banged up too, and he's had a questionable designation all week long. So if the Eagles stick to the discipline of being trench heavy today, even without Lane Johnson, I think they can win this football game. And it does seem like Fred Johnson will end up starting at right tackle, Gino, instead of Jeff Stoutland. Normally doesn't like to switch 2 spots if he doesn't have to. I was thinking maybe it's Tyler Steen at right guard with how he played last week really well. Mekhi Becton slides over to right tackle, but I think they want to keep it, especially with how Fred played last week. They'll probably want to keep Becton at right guard, and I'd imagine Johnson plays right tackle.
I think it would be incredibly short-sighted to move Mekhi to right tackle and then play Tyler Steen.
I don't think they're doing that.
No, I think you roll with Fred Johnson, especially because, I mean, Tyler Steen is getting a lot of praise for his performance last week, but I thought Fred Johnson played just as good. I thought he moved for somebody his size, who he is bigger than every other offensive lineman they have. He can move exceptionally well and get up to the second level. That's what I'm going to focus on mainly when the game starts, Lou. Like, once they start handing it off to Saquon, are they changing it up from side to side? Because you do have Mekhi Becton. We'll see how the timing with those combo blocks when they're running their duo, running their inside zone, how that works. But if there's any sort of issue on that right side, it might handcuff you to go one-sided and go to the left side. And that's where things could get a little ugly. But at the same time, I think you focus on your top guys. Saquon Barkley and Dallas Goedert are still playing in this football game.
Right.
Jalen Hurts, you don't have to be Superman and force it, but also realize Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix put up an aggressive amount of yards on the ground against this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. Yeah. And I'm the biggest Bo fan in the world, obviously. I'm an Oregon fan. Jaden Daniels is an up-and-coming player, but Jalen Hurts is a different beast when he wants to run that football. Yeah. And when he turns that switch on, Lou, I don't know why he picks and chooses his spots, but when he does, he can win in the open field.
They need that Atlanta game. Like, they need that kind of rushing from Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
today.
Fair way to look at it.
And I saw it on Twitter yesterday. Apparently, I didn't even realize this. The Buccaneers were not a great rushing defense. They're also the worst tackling team in football. They have the most missed tackles of any defense in football.
Big game for Saquon too, man.
Big game for Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts on the ground. Right now, the Eagles head into this game as 1.5-point favorites. The over-under is at 41.5. We kind of talked about this line on Friday, Gino. I think 41.5 is kind of a trap because of the conditions, because of the injuries. You made this point. I thought it was spot on. 41.5, though, still is not a lot of points. And considering the Buccaneers are banged up on defense, I probably am going to end up taking the over in this one. And I'll take the Eagles money line straight outright. Like, I think they're still going to win this football game.
Yeah, I hate that 1.5 point spread.
I'm not betting that.
a home underdog, especially with Tampa, who, I mean, they're a team that has put up 2 good performances against you the last 2 times you played them, ran you out of their building.
You know, I'm so sick of watching the Eagles play in Tampa Bay.
In Tampa Bay. Yeah, that's how it's getting to the point where it's the new Seattle for me. It's like every time you travel west, it's like we're going to lose this game.
I just
hopefully
never feel
it changes.
Even if they win, I hate seeing that stadium now. I can't take it.
Yeah, since the Deshaun Jackson years, I think that's kind of when it kicked in.
About it. I know, I agree. They just haven't had a lot of luck there, but they did win in the regular season in Tampa last year. And I do think they should be favored in this game. Again, it's a 1.5 spread right now in Tampa Bay. 41.5 is the over-under. Let's get into our LOE3 picks presented by FanDuel coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles. This bonus edition of Locked On Eagles, as we mentioned, is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, where you can get a big return. When you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out, of course, the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page through FanDuel where you place your bets. You're going to get started right now, actually, with $200 back in bonus bets, guaranteed. All you got to do is, once we give you these bets, hammer one with just a $5 bet, and you're going to get $200 back in bonus bets. So whether it's, Jalen Hurts rushing, an anytime touchdown for Saquon Barkley, just throw $5 on it or more through FanDuel, and you'll get $200 back in bonus bets at FanDuel.com. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook and the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network.
This bonus LOE is also brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks, which is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 players' stat projections and watch your winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct selections. You want to play Prize Picks alongside Drewski, Joe Budden, former MMA champ Sugar Sean O'Malley. You can now find the Community Plays tab under the Promos tab on the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. And Prize Picks even invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out your lineup if it isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks does not hit. So to get in on the action today, download the Prize Picks app and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game.
All right, just a few more hours until Eagles-Buccaneers, a 1 o'clock kickoff down in Tampa Bay. Ton of Eagles fans down there. Everybody is crazy for that, considering the conditions, but absolutely love it. They've got an opportunity to get to 3-1 before the bye week. A lot of injuries, though, for both teams. Again, just to update everybody, of course, we knew A.J. Brown was questionable for this game, same with Lane Johnson. Both are going to be held out. We already knew Devontae Smith was not playing in this football game. I'd imagine it's Jahan Dotson at receiver and Johnny Wilson, Paris Campbell. That's your top 3. Probably a lot of 12 personnel, too, with Grant Calcaterra heavily involved in this game as well from a snap count perspective. Maybe not targets, but he's going to be on the field a lot. I also predict Fred Johnson, Gino. I think you're right. He'll play right tackle. Mekhi Becton's going to play right guard. Steen played well last week, but I think Fred played well enough at tackle where you don't want to move 2 spots. And I think with that, you lean on the trenches, considering Tampa's injuries up front and on defense. They already were not a great tackling defense. You lean on Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts' legs in this football game, and I think our bets reflect that for sure.
I also mentioned on Friday's show, and especially now with Lane Johnson out as well, Kellen Moore he better be in his bag today, man.
agree.
Like, let's get the ball out quick. Let's do some quick hitting
Create for
man
these three
beaters.
young receivers.
Yep, a lot of mesh type of stuff where you're getting free releases for some of these guys.
Use Saquon more creatively in the passing game too. Like, let's
Yes.
get him moved around in motion.
Yeah,
Let's
like
try
put
some
him out
screens.
wide
Yeah, let's get
sometimes.
some wheel routes, like some
Yeah.
screens. Like, use Saquon a little bit more creatively in the passing game too. Because I don't want to say we haven't seen that a lot this year, but it's been fewer and far between than maybe I expected.
I also expect, I know you said to play a lot of 12 personnel. When are we going to see some 22 personnel out there
Could
today?
be today, yeah.
Running backs on the
Get
field.
some Gainwell and Shipley going too. Like, let's give Will Shipley a shot to catch the football too. He's explosive. Like, if you need explosive plays, it might be a time to get your running backs involved.
Absolutely. And especially because you're looking as a defense, if you're Tampa Bay, where do our eyes have to be? They got to be on 26 and they got to be on 88. So all of a sudden you're forgetting about Kenny Gainwell and Will Shipley, who are doing these funky things in a 22 personnel. Kellen Moore, he can open up the game. We saw what he did with Britton Covey, Lou. Who's to say that he can't get 5 to 6 targets to some of these role players?
Like the way you use Covey against Atlanta, like you dialed up a lot of like design plays for him. Like, let's get that for some of your running backs, for Dotson. Maybe Campbell. I wouldn't say Johnny Wilson as much in that way, but maybe even give Johnny Wilson, like, try to line him up one-on-one, like get him a solo matchup and throw him some jump balls, right? I know he dropped that pass at the end against New Orleans, but like that's a shot that you give your 6'7" player an opportunity to catch. So it will be interesting to see how this personnel is used, and it's a kind of fun opportunity for a lot of these young guys. Obviously, it's not ideal for the Eagles, but it is kind of a fun, exciting opportunity for a lot of my guys, for sure. All right, let's get into these bets. It's what everybody's been waiting for, presented by FanDuel. LOE3, 3-player props that Gino and I are both riding with for Eagles-Buccaneers, and we're both over 500. We had a good week against New Orleans. I went 3-0, 6-3 on the year. Gino went 2-1. He's 5-4 on the season. And I like your first bet, Gino. You're going bold. We just mentioned Johnny Wilson at plus 650. How about a Johnny Wilson anytime touchdown?
You were just talking about, I don't know if they'll use Johnny Wilson as much. Well, the thing about somebody his size is you only need one opportunity in the red zone to target him. And that's where I'm thinking that he gets that look, like you said, right? He's 6'7". You look in the back of the end zone, he's standing taller than anybody. Like, let's just give him an opportunity. And the reason I went between so many of these guys, Grant Calcaterra was at plus 1,100. Kenny Gainwell was at plus 1,100. Will Shipley at plus 3,300.
Yeah.
If he's going to be returning kicks too to score an anytime touchdown, that might be one you sprinkle a little flyer on, right? That might be that $5 FanDuel bonus.
Yeah, if we have like a bonus suggestion that's not in our 3 bets, the Shipley anytime touchdown.
Just because of how big it is. But I was going back and forth between them all, and I said, Johnny Wilson's the only true X receiver that they're going to have out there. He's probably going to be out there every single snap. I don't know if he's going to get every look.
Blocking too, Gino. He's the 8th highest graded receiver when it comes to blocking, according to Pro Football Focus. So
so you're going to need him in the run game today, especially. I think you line him up. You go tight end heavy on the right side with Fred Johnson. You put your best blocking wide receiver over there as well. It might tip your hand a little bit where you're running the football, but my focus is Johnny Wilson. When is he going to be that red zone threat? And the one time he did get the ball in his hand, he showed some explosiveness to him as well. So it might even just be
3rd and 9, and he caught the ball
picked
like
up first
2
down.
yards over the line and broke 2 tackles. Yeah,
and all it might take for him is, like, let's say it's 2nd and goal from like the 6-yard line. You run a stack formation. Let's put the ball in his hand and make a couple guys on the edge take him down. I think that would be a good way to get him the ball. But I went a little risky with this one because
I like it.
You can't just say Dallas Goedert's going to score a touchdown.
Yeah,
no, it's going to happen more than likely. I had to take a flyer, Johnny.
And Gino, if one of these bold, like crazy high odd bets are going to hit on one of these young players, it's going to be this football game, right? Like, if you're going to take
it has to be
Will Shipley touchdown or the Johnny Wilson or the Dotson, which I've taken in weeks past for sure. But if there is a chance it hits, like, this is the best game. And the odds still really haven't been like suddenly they're a lot lower for these players. Like, it's still incredible odds for Wilson, Shipley, any of these guys to catch a touchdown.
Even Jahan Dotson was at like plus 370. Paris Campbell at like plus 420, I believe, as well. But they're going to mix and match. I mean, they're both.
Just close your eyes and pick one of those, I think.
Yeah, it's really going to be who does this team favor in that area, and like what does the game plan boil down to? And Johnny Wilson, I'm favoring him. He's my guy, Lou. Like, you got to take him.
All right, so my first bet is this. So in this game, I did go a little bit safe. I'm just trying to get you guys out with some cash. I did take the anytime Jalen Hurts touchdown at plus 155. I do think when they get in the red zone, they're going to rely heavily on Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts. I don't think that's really a bold statement, but Jalen, I think, just one rushing touchdown? Am I wrong on that so far?
No, you're
through
correct.
3 games?
Yep.
So I don't think it's as consistent as it was last year to make this bet. But I think this is a game, again, they rely a lot on Jalen Hurts' legs, even if it's not like the tush push. Maybe it's a quarterback draw or a scramble drill where he just gets outside the pocket and scores. I do think Jalen Hurts is going to get in the end zone today. I'm still plus 155. Like Saquon's at the minus in the anytime touchdown, but I still like those odds, and I think I'll take that considering the circumstances today.
The middle of the field is going to be tough to run it, but I still think there's going to be opportunities for some draws. Like you're going to see Tampa play man at times. They turn their back. You don't have Kalijah Kancey to really blow things up in there.
And
if you can,
and if Vea's out too, that's even more of a reason that I like the push in the red zone.
Still, you're going to double Vita Vea until the cows come home, right? But you can't be afraid to run the ball in that direction. And I think Jalen Hurts, if there's any game where he averages a high average on his run, Lou, this might be it. It might not be like a death by 1,000 cuts, like 12 carries for like 3.4 yards a carry. It might be 4 or 5 carries for like 6 to 7, maybe even plus yards. He's going to get opportunities.
Yeah, and that's why my second bet was the over on his 39.5 rushing yard line here. That's at minus 110. I do think there's going to be a couple explosive runs, and I do think the attempts are going to be much higher than they've been in weeks past. Like this does give me the vibe of, we mentioned this on Friday's show, if you see it, just tuck it and run. Like if you see those 8 yards and it's going to get you a first down on 3rd and 8, like take that. I know I've been wanting him to create more with his legs for the pass, and he's been doing that really well the last 2 games, but I don't know if things are going to open up that much in this football game. So they could, obviously, create. That's how you can open up things for these younger receivers that are inexperienced. But I want him just to take the rushing yards he can get today, and 39.5, like I'm hammering that.
As I said before, I love Bo, love Jaden Daniels, but Jalen Hurts is a much better runner on the ground right now.
Especially,
man.
I mean, they're both mobile, but Jalen's a superior runner.
And he has the best offensive line of all the guys that we had mentioned so far.
Yes, even without Lane Johnson, absolutely.
I trust Jalen Hurts. I think that's a very safe bet, Lou. Like he
I'm
might have an aggressive number of yards on the ground today.
All right, your second bet is the over for Saquon Barkley's receiving yards, and this is at 40 yards, which is plus 300, and that's what we were just alluding to is Kellen Moore, get more creative for a lot of these players, create for Dotson, Wilson, Paris Campbell, but also get Saquon Barkley more involved in the passing game, and it's not just like in the check down area. Get him creative in the open field, like find space for him because he's your best run after the catch explosive player today. Like this is a 2019 Miles Sanders kind of game, right? Where he's our best playmaker, even at running back. We need to throw him the football. Just get the ball.
You know what it reminds me of? The game we were at. Buffalo, 25-mile-an-hour winds, rainy condition. It's not going to be rainy and windy today, but it's a precarious position where it's like we know what we do best, and it's running the football. And yeah, you're going to have to run it, but Saquon's going to have to get vertical at times, dude. Like what he did against Green Bay, that's the formula that you're going to have to push with Saquon Barkley. Yes, you could get him out in the ball in space and make him miss tackles against a team that isn't the best tackling team on earth, but at the same time, they don't have the guys that are going to be able to cover him vertically. Like you don't have Antoine Winfield Jr. That's probably the guy that they would rely on to cover either him and or Dallas Goedert.
I'd imagine, yeah.
I'm trusting Saquon, man. I think his actual over was like 22.5. I went with the alternate over because I really think he's going to have a big day in the air.
No, I like that. And then your final bet is a defensive bet, and I love this one. A player to record a sack at minus 114, Jalen Carter. We already know that Tampa's going to be without Gadecki today, their number 1 tackle on the offensive line, probably their best overall lineman. Gino Cody Mock has struggled for Tampa. Baker Mayfield holds on to the football longer than most quarterbacks. Carter's coming off the best game of his career. Love this bet from you. I think this was a good one. And the first defensive bet of the year for us.
Yes, the defensive bets, they release a couple days after the player props usually do. So we lucked into this one as well, but the bread man
deserve that considering this game, though.
Yeah, the bread man. Talk about a day where he could feast, Lou. this is the day, because if you look at the numbers, Luke Gedeke, when he was in there, they only allowed 1 sack in the game he was in.
Yeah.
In the last 2 games, Baker Mayfield has been sacked 12 times. 12 times. So they have no excuse not to get after the quarterback today.
Agreed.
And if Jalen Carter is 60% of the player he was last week, he's going to record a sack.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that was a generational performance by Carter in New Orleans. So even 60% of that's an elite player. And then my final bet was the under on Baker Mayfield.
I love this.
Total. Yeah, so this was kind of to reflect the defense having a good day too. The line is 233.5. That's at minus 110. I'm going to take that, Gino. Like, that's me saying the defensive line's going to have a day. And although they have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, I'm banking on my guys. Quinyon Mitchell and Darius Slay. I think they're going to win this matchup. It's maybe a heart pick, but I think they're going to limit Baker Mayfield today. I think this is a defensive performance. They're going to have back-to-back games where we're like, okay, Fangio's unit's getting going. Like, they're really gaining some momentum heading into the bye. So I think both of our bets kind of reflect a strong defensive performance today in Tampa.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you're right on brand with that Baker Mayfield under as well, because you look at Quinyon Mitchell currently leading the league in forced incompletions, which is just insane to say. Darius Slay is playing exceptionally well. The thing I look at is if Gedeke was in there, you'd probably have a little bit more time to push that ball down the field.
Yep.
Will they get the volume? Oh, 100%. I think Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, they definitely combined for 15 catches today.
I agree.
But the explosive nature of those catches, I think that's where they're going to limit them, because you still have Chauncey. You still have Reed Blankenship. Your secondary is healthy. The front is going to push the envelope. Today is a game where you bank on that defense. I think the defense wins you the game today, Lou. I think that once again, you're saying, look at this defensive performance from Vic Fangio. The offense did just enough to get by. But another bet I was looking at, Lou, like defensive anytime touchdown for this team. Baker might give you an opportunity to turn that thing into 6.
Yeah, I almost took that too. So those are our 3 bets each, but at the same time, a couple extra suggestions, like an anytime touchdown for a Will Shipley, a Dotson, a Campbell for the defense in general. That might be a good idea as well. So make sure you hammer these bets through FanDuel. Again, $5 is going to get you $200 back in bonus bets. One final look at the spread. Again, the Eagles, 1.5-point favorites in this matchup. The over-under is 41.5. Gino, I'm not touching the 1.5. I'm taking the Eagles' money line, and I'm going to take your advice from Friday. I'm going to take the over on 41.5.
Yeah, let's hope for points. I think the Eagles, if you start fast today, will open up an opportunity. Feel good about yourself. First game to score points on the first 2 drives would be nice. I mean, they haven't done that in the first 3. Be nice to open up quick and finish fast too, and score some points in the middle. Like, it seems obvious what to do in this game. Just run the freaking football, control the time of possession, hit your shots in the pass game, and Jalen Hurts, take care of the ball today, my friend.
Totally agree. Perfect way to end the show. We'll be back, though, in just a few hours. Right after the Eagles game against the Buccaneers, the Locked On Eagles postgame show is coming your way on YouTube and on all audio platforms. Thanks so much for making us your first listen each and every day. For Gino Camilleri, I'm Lou DiBiase signing off. Enjoy the game. Let's get to 3-1 as always. Thanks so much for downloading, watching, and listening, and let's go Birds.
Fly, Eagles, fly.